MPs in the Ontario Liberal caucus got a surprise visit at their caucus retreat yesterday. Sault Ste. Marie MP Terry Sheehan posted this picture on social media, writing, "Good spending some time with Justin Trudeau today. Amazing weather, better chats." The visit was a very late addition to the Prime Minister's itinerary and comes amid speculation of a possible cabinet shuffle next week. Trudeau has been under pressure to make changes to either his front bench or the team around him since June's by-election loss in Toronto St. Paul's. Trudeau was asked about all that earlier this week. Have a listen.
Since June's by-election loss in Toronto, many in your caucus have called for change, whether that's to party leadership or to your senior staff or perhaps the caucus. You've had some time to think about this for the last 6 weeks, presumably. Can you tell me whether you're planning on implementing any changes that your caucus is looking for?
Well, one of the things that we've been focused on, not just over the past few weeks, but over the past many years, is making sure we're investing in Canadians. This announcement today is a great example of how, from local MPs to ministers, we've all been working together.
Will the Prime Minister make changes ahead of two more by-elections that are not far away, coming up in only a few weeks' time? It's time to bring in the power panel. Cameron Ahmed is the former head of communications to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. James Moore is a former Conservative cabinet minister. And Andrew Thompson is a former Saskatchewan NDP cabinet minister. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, GP.
Hello.
Cameron, I want to start with you. You know, a number of MPs have been clamoring for some sort of caucus meeting to discuss that painful by-election loss earlier this summer. That didn't happen. That was shut down. Now the Prime Minister, he's popping up in Sudbury to meet with the Ontario caucus. What do you think that's all about? He's trying to settle down some people who may be feeling a little anxious?
Well, it's good that they're meeting. I don't know if it was shut down. I think it was, they wanted to take some time, take a bit of a breather, reflect on what happened, take some time also for the Prime Minister to get across the country and do some events with Canadians, which he's been doing. I think it's good, though, that he's meeting with caucuses, and I'm sure they're going to keep meeting and talking going into the session. Whether there's some changes to come, I mean, yes, especially in the wake of bad polling, difficult by-election results, you're going to have those demands for changes coming from within. And yes, the party, the leadership and the government need to do something to reflect that they're understanding and listening to what's happening, including from their own team members. But a shuffle or major changes to staff or ministerial shakeups, that's not going to miraculously change the fortunes for the Liberal Party or for the government. I think what is, if anything, going into the fall session is going to be a laser focus on, strong message discipline, understanding what Canadians want to hear the government addressing. Hopefully they've done that, reflecting over the summer, and are able to now talk about it in a compelling way, and also some sharper contrast with the opposition.
Yeah, James, I just want to raise this one point that, we're about 2 months out now from that Toronto St. Paul's by-election, and we've only had one sitting MP come forward to call for Trudeau's resignation, St. John MP Wayne Long, maybe a brave man, but there haven't been, anyone else coming forward. There's been some MPs behind the scenes kind of griping to reporters and others, asking for some changes, asking for a cabinet shuffle, asking for a new chief of staff. We haven't seen any meaningful change to this point at all, really. What do you make of that?
Well, I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One is it speaks to the interpersonal relationship and bond that apparently Prime Minister Trudeau has with the members of his caucus, that they do feel some fealty towards him, what he's accomplished since 2015, in a sense that he deserves a graceful exit should he take it, number one. Number two, I think with that in mind, Prime Minister Trudeau is kind of tempting fate here, that this could unravel in a very undignified way very quickly if there does become a really aggressive momentum against his leadership, because a scandal comes up or the polling numbers continue to tank or things get even dramatically worse. But I also think number three is that, Liberals, they look at the calendar and they realize there's still a lot of time on the clock in terms of the lifeblood of this government. And many of them may be resigned to the reality that they're probably going to lose the next election campaign, at least as it seems right now. But there's still time on the clock to get some things done that'll be valuable to them as individuals in their local communities, for their sense of personal legacy, for their sense of value of contribution of this Liberal government to their sense of, accomplishment for this time that they've invested in public life. Even if they think that they're going to lose, they kind of don't want to waste the next calendar year that's still in front of them to do some stuff that they'll be proud of as they speak to their kids and grandkids in the years ahead. So I think all those three things combined, or any one of them, speaks to some of the reasons why there hasn't been sort of a massive revolt. Not everything is just about polls in the next election. Some people actually do want to get some stuff done, even if they kind of are resigned to the fact that the Liberals are probably going to lose with or without Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, that's a good point. Andrew, say what you will about the Prime Minister, but he seems to have kept a lid on his caucus, right? I mean, his party loses a seat. They've held for more than 30 years. They're down 20 points in the polls to a populist guy like Pierre Poilievre, and there hasn't been a serious movement to oust him over the summer. Really, there's only been one guy that's asked him to go. What do you make of that?
I don't know. I mean, caucuses in Canada do tend to be fairly well disciplined. They understand that old adage, you hang together or you hang separately, and in this case, they've obviously decided to pull together. I think James's analysis around this kind of friendly fatalism that's settled over the caucus is probably partly true, that they are focused in celebrating what's good, and there is a little bit of time left. But I think there's also a pretty firm understanding that they've run out of most of the tools that are available to them to really make change. They've made the big policy changes that Canadians, a lot of them that they were clamoring for in the spring around housing, immigration a bit more maybe needs to be done. The cost of living questions are starting to come into a different focus than they were, but there is still a real fatigue with the Prime Minister himself, and there's really very few ways for a caucus in Canada to remove a leader who doesn't want to go. Now, who knows what's in the Prime Minister's mind? I mean, I think the Liberal strategy of popping up here and there, going and testing the waters, having a bit of a lower key summer is probably a smart strategy for the Liberals, and probably a good one to allow the PM to recharge and assess what he wants to do. But we'll see what comes after the next two by-elections in terms of the future of how the Liberals want to handle this.
Cameron, do you think that those two by-elections are top of mind right now? I mean, the people who work around the Prime Minister well, the Prime Minister well, that there's a cabinet retreat that's coming up next week. Do you think that a lot of that will be a strategy session of how to deal with the by-election and possible fallout?
Well, definitely a lot of focus is going to go into this by-election, and rightly so. But it's going to be tight, just like the last one was. And I think they do have to think various outcomes and strategize how to deal with the result if it's not a positive one. That said, I think going into the fall session, putting aside the by-elections for a second, Andrew's right. There's a lot of really good work that's been done, a lot of good policy that's been implemented, a lot of stuff that people actually support. Like when you break it down and ask Canadians what kinds of things that they want the government to do and what they care about for their government to focus on, the Liberals have actually delivered quite a bit on affordability and cost of living, and specifically for lower income and working families. The challenge is people don't know about it. There's a lot of personality politics right now. You have an extremely effective leader of the Conservatives who has done a great job capitalizing on people's anger and frustrations. And the Liberals are in this tough spot right now where there's this lingering frustration and a lot of focus that the press is paying on attention on to leadership questions and how people feel about within the party and within the team. So I think they have to go into this fall session and use this time, as has been said, reflecting over the summer, understanding what the specific points are that Canadians want to hear them talk about, and actually build a compelling argument that is sharp and that gets across to Canadians. There is some time before the next election, but it will run out at some point. So they have to really be, I think, sharp and compelling, and again, using every opportunity to draw the contrast with what the other side is or isn't offering.
Yeah, James, just picking up on Cameron's point about personalities, I was struck, they were talking about this during the UK election too, how their parliamentary system is kind of morphing into a presidential style system of politics where the leader really matters, more so than ever. It's not necessarily about the policies that are put in the window, that more people are caring about who's the guy or gal at the top. Do you think that that's what's really hampering the Liberal Party if they've had this success that Cameron is saying and it's not resonating? Is it because of the leader?
Of course, our system is long. We're actually ahead of what's happening in the UK in that regard because of our proximity to the United States and our, media obsession with American politics, particularly since the entry of Donald Trump back in 2015-16. So, we have in Canada presidential style politics, but parliamentary style governance. And so, anybody who's under any illusion that you can have, where there's a voter out there who would say, I like the Liberal Party, I like the Liberal brand, but I can't stand the Liberal leader, but I'm still going to vote Liberal. That cohort of swing voters is very, very large. People who are going to walk away from a party if they don't like the leader. There, you have some people who may be institutional voters who always sort of lock in and sort of check that box for life of they're always going to be a habitual voter for one brand. But make no mistake, swing voters look very hard at the leader because we all understand very acutely, certainly in our system, that the power and responsibility of leading a government in response to crisis, in the pursuit of aspiration, of dealing with global dynamics, rests in the hands of the Prime Minister. And so if you don't like the Prime Minister, it really kind of doesn't matter who the Minister of Agriculture is.
Andrew, only have about a minute left. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that is true. And the other piece, of course, is that the Prime Minister wields a huge amount of power within the caucus. He has the ability to make careers and take those careers away. And so there is certainly an art to opposing a leader and to helping them understand when it's time to go in the best interest of the party or the country. And I think that is the debate that will play out. Should we see a cabinet shuffle before or after the by-elections? I don't know that it's going to make a huge difference one way or the other. I'd be surprised if they do much until the by-elections are settled. So we'll just watch and see, but as I think everybody realizes, it really comes down to what the Prime Minister wants to do next. And
are you feeling hopeful for the NDP and LaSalle Martin? They seem to be positive about their candidate there.
You know, Quebec is a very interesting place right now, is a bit more like it was in 2011, to a certain extent in 2015, where there's a number of kind of 3- and 4-way fights shaping up as the Conservatives come up, as the NDP continue to hold, as the Liberals drop a bit. It's really hard to predict what's going to happen in those seats because it'll come down to voter turnout and it'll come down to on-the-ground organization.
Yeah, okay, let's leave it there. Thank you so much to the Thursday Power Panel, Cameron Ahmed, James Moore, and Andrew Thompson. Appreciate you coming on tonight and sharing your thoughts with us. Those by-elections only a few weeks away in early September. We'll have a lot of coverage of that, to be sure. I'm JP.